All right. Hello, everyone who's here, if there's even anyone here, and if you're watching later, thank you for coming. We have a really exciting presentation today. We have Christina here. She is from near where I live, and we have been doing Nano together since last year, and we've been writing partners throughout the week. Do you want to kind of share a little bit about yourself and what you're working on this year?
Oh, sure. I am working on a fantasy series this year. I've been actually kind of kicking it around for multiple years. If you look on my Nano page, you'll see that I'm still reworking the first book. I really needed to get organized, so I'm excited to share a little bit about what I've learned today.
So Christina has a presentation that she's going to walk us through, which is about different ways to organize and different techniques that you can use. They're going to be like a brief overview, but nothing too in depth, but just to give you some overarching ideas of different ways and different tools for organizing your story so that you can actually finish it.
Yes, and after the presentation, I can walk you through a little bit of each tool. I actually do not know how to minimize my presentation, or I would do it during the presentation.
I think if you get out of full screen and then move the app that you want to share into your screen, it should let you do that to where we can see it. Ooh, the inception. Screenception.
I know. Wow, look at that. Now I switch back. This is amazing.
Hello, everyone.
Well, hi, everyone.
Joined.
Wow, there are like a million of you.
A million.
A million at least. Okay. So I'm going to go over really quick just categories of stuff that you need to organize when you're writing a novel. Some people do this naturally in their brains. I am not one of those people. I need to put my stuff in order and have systems for my stuff so that when I go back to it, I am not lost. So I've come up with kind of 4 basic categories of the stuff that I organize. The first is the plot or the outline. This is just what happens in your story. It can be very basic, just a few things. You can have like 3 events. You can have it plotted out so that you know every scene that happens in your story and what happens in each scene, like bullet points. There's a character and setting. This is a place where a lot of people, especially in fantasy, get trapped. Like they just keep building their characters and keep building their settings, especially settings. You do need setting information. And am I still with you guys?
Yes, you are. And I was actually thinking that I relate to that a lot because I'm writing a sci-fi, which is basically the same thing as fantasy when we break it down too. And what I have spent the majority of my time doing is figuring out my setting, the world history, how everything looks, and how the cities are set up. And it's a lot of time-consuming stuff to work on the characters and setting.
It is, and to some extent you need that information, but only do what you need for your plot. So don't get trapped in like the specifics of the language people use unless that's going to be part of your plot. You don't need it, at least not in depth. The next kind of category is your manuscript itself. This is pretty basic. It's what you've written. And the other stuff I find myself categorizing is like the tips and tricks and how to write well, what different things you need to look for in your editing process or your publishing process. I'm going to go ahead into the first category, which is your plot. There are all kinds of different ways to organize your plot. So you can do an outline like you did in school for your papers. You can do it in like a text file or a note app. You can do it in Word or Google Doc. You can use Plotter, which is a tool I'm very excited to share with you today. You can use Aeon Timeline 2, which is also an excellent tool. They have different purposes in my mind. I'll go over that in a bit. So Plotter, the website is getplotter.com. Michelle, can we put all of this information, all the links for these in the description when we're finished?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I have never heard of Plotter before. I think maybe you mentioned it in passing, but I don't think I've ever actually seen anything about it. So I'm actually really excited for this because my plot situation tends to be that I just have bullet points, kind of like you mentioned. And then
Yes.
sometimes I'll write like a whole paragraph for the chapter, but yeah, something to help me organize plot, when I was first starting this would have been so helpful.
Yes, I think that for me too, that's where I have had to go back to the basics so many times because I messed something up in my plot. This is a good tool for working with that. I will explain a little bit more about it in just a minute. So the pricing, it's about $25. The nice thing about their pricing is they do have a combination price. So if you have Windows and you have Mac, you can use it on both.
Yeah, and actually that price is really good for the program and what it is. A lot of programs that are made for writing tend to be around 25 to 100, like normally in that range. So this is definitely very affordable compared to a lot of the programs out there. Like even Scrivener is twice that much. And with Scrivener, you have to buy for both your Mac and your Windows separately. You can't buy them together.
Exactly. I really like the combination price, especially if you're not sure. Maybe you don't want to stick with Windows forever, or you don't want to stick with your Mac forever. It gives you some flexibility.
Exactly.
So this price includes a year of updates. So it is not a subscription, even though it calls itself a subscription. What you're subscribing to are the updates. You keep the program itself that you downloaded forever. It's included in that $25 price. They do have a 30-day free trial. I highly encourage people to use it. It is a newer program. There are a couple of bugs. I'll go into that in a second. But I find it so incredibly useful even as it is. Okay. So what I like about Plotter. It is incredibly flexible for actually plotting. Like I have used Scrivener's corkboard, and you can drag around the scenes a little bit. It doesn't feel cohesive to me. I've used Dabble. I've used Scrapple, I think, too.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never found anything I like as well as this.
Scrivener is not good for plotting. I'll just throw that out there. It is only good for organizing once you're already into the drafting phase, I think.
I don't know. I feel like for people who are naturally organized, they could just sit down with Scrivener and go front to back. They could do all of it. I am not that type of person. I need to think about things and move things around and play with them a little bit. Plotter has series support. And I'll show you a little bit of that. Right.
Ooh, that is nice. Especially for anyone writing fantasy or sci-fi.
Right? How many series have we read for those?
What the real question is, how many standalones have you read for those? That is probably the better question.
Good question. It does have built-in templates. So if you like sitting to be in a structure, so the hero's journey is in there. They have a template for the snowflake method. They have a template for the 8-sequence method and the 7-point method. They have a romance specific.
Ooh. My friend was actually just telling me about the snowflake method. I think that I generally use the hero's journey. Well, I use like a version of the hero's journey, but I've been interested to try the snowflake method. I like the concept of it.
I really like the appeal of not stressing out as you're building it.
Right.
I feel like if you're faced with your whole plot at once, that can be really intimidating for some people.
Yeah. Yeah, the snowflake is really good because, and now I'm going based completely off memory of what has been told to me. I have not actually looked it up, but you start with like the very, like the most or like high level overview of the plot, and then you break it down further and further as you get further away from the center of the snowflake, right?
I don't know at
No.
all.
Okay.
I just know the first few steps are pretty short. Like they're not steps that involve a whole lot of time. And that makes it easier for people to kind of get into the building without overwhelming themselves. I don't personally use it, so I don't remember the details at all.
Okay, I'll paste a link in chat and we'll make sure that there's a link in the description for those of you watching afterwards.
Yes.
But there's a link to, and I'll put it on the screen as well if you want to just type it out, I guess. Well, it's going to be gone in 3, 2, 1. Okay. But yeah, I like the appeal of having it have the built-in templates. I appreciate templates a lot. Starting from scratch can be very overwhelming.
It really can. And then you find yourself kind of figuring out what the story structure should be. And there are a lot of these structures that work for almost all stories.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can find a structure that you feel works for your story, it's probably like, if it works for your story and it's a known template, kind of in a way,
Mm-hmm.
your story is going to be stronger for fitting into that as well.
Yeah, and you know what I've noticed while I was writing is that stories naturally fall into, and potentially this is from reading so much, but in my experience, stories fall naturally into these different plot threads, like the hero's
They
journey or
really
the
do.
save cat or whatever. The story naturally falls into that kind of order, and it feels more cathartic to have that sort of stream of plot. I don't know, maybe there's something like psychological about us reading stories that have like a similar setup, so we don't have to worry about figuring that part out. We can just enjoy the story as it is. Because I know that when stories are not in like a generic setup, it does feel weird, and you get uncomfortable with certain pacing choices. Um,
Or the beginning can seem to really drag.
Yes.
I've read several books that are like that.
Yeah,
Movies, too. Movies tend to fall into the same structure of storytelling.
exactly. And I'm thinking about specifically a show that I just watched. It's like a 9 or 10 episode mini series. And I did not like the plot because it just dragged and dragged. And they didn't really follow any one of these kinds of structures. And I think that's why it didn't, I think that's part of why it didn't work. Oh, I'm talking, but also we have Christina. I don't know why it's not showing your name tag. Let me see
Oh,
if
no, no
we're
name tag.
um
I can just be the mysterious voice.
there we go. There we go. I found it. But Christina is an ENFJ if anyone cares.
I just am very bad with technology, or I would be chatting with everybody at the same time.
Well, you're sharing your screen too, so.
I am. I figured that much out.
Woo!
All right. Getting back on the Plotter track. So Plotter does export to Scrivener. It is a very basic export. I will show you what it does later. But if you're starting your plot and just kind of thinking out, especially story structure, it exports just fine for that. It does not export like all of its characters and setting and that sort of stuff. It's just the plot, which I actually prefer. I like to simplify and see the one thing instead of all the things.
Right. Once you have the plot, you can kind of build the setting around it. Maybe you have like snippets of ideas or certain imagery for your setting, but having the plot is ultimately, you don't really need a setting to have a plot unless your setting completely is integrated into the plot. And it's not very common
Right.
that a setting is that integrated into a plot.
typically you know your genre and you kind of figure out the setting from there.
Exactly.
It is still a new program. They are working really hard on it. They're actually, the timeline's pretty good for how often they're updating. They just came out with Android and iOS. But there are a couple little bugs. One is pasting with formatting. So if you paste something from another file, like Control-Shift-V, you want it with the formatting, it will look like it saved it, and then it will disappear when you click out of that screen.
Oh, no.
So you have to kind of format it yourself if you're pasting. That's the only bug I've actually found.
Oh, well, that's like hardly a bug. Like, that happens with like half of applications. Yes, I can post it in the chat for you guys, and then we'll also have it in the description afterwards. Actually, I may be able to edit the description as we go. Plotter.
Oh, that would be nice. Otherwise, I'd be happy to compile a little text and throw it to you in chat or on Discord.
Yeah, yeah, that would be great as well. This one is no fake. I'm trying to see if it'll let me update and save this edition. Save. Oh, maybe it won't let me while the video is live.
Oh, bummer.
Oh, what did I say, Em? But you can go ahead and continue. I'm sorry, Christina.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just didn't want to interrupt. So the other program I really like for plotting is Aeon Timeline 2. This is a little bit more expensive. It's $50, and it's for either Windows or Mac. So Plotter is a bit cheaper and more flexible that way. However, I know that I got this program for half off. And I don't know whether it was through Nano or like a Black Friday sale. Do check out programs on Black Friday. They almost all of them do discount.
What do you love about Aeon Timeline?
I am actually going to go into that on the next. So
oh, nice. Okay, sorry.
I kind of have this intro slide for each one.
Oh,
and then I have a slide of kind of the things I picked out that I like the best.
Oh, awesome.
So there's a 20-day free trial of this software that you can try it out yourself. This is very good for things that are on a duration. So instead of just a card, it shows a line. It's a timeline.
Ooh.
So you can do that. I guess I'm going to pay attention to my own outline and stick to it, hopefully. So you can move things on this program. It is not quite as easy and flexible to move around your plot itself. Events are easy, duration is easy to change, but events is not. Now this program for fantasy, usually we have like, especially different worlds, we have like a custom calendar. The days are not the same as on Earth. You can create a custom calendar in this program.
That is cool.
But only one. So you're not going to have like a timeline for each world with its own custom calendar, but you can have it to a custom calendar for all of them.
That is really cool. That is actually really cool. I think creating a custom calendar sounds very complicated and difficult, but also pretty interesting.
I believe there is a tool out there that will help you like generate the calendar and the moon phases and the holidays. I will see if I can dig that up. It will be a dig though. It may not come right away.
Okay.
And for this program, you can view your timeline by character, plot, and setting. But you can view like 3 settings all at once.
Oh, nice.
Which is really helpful for me with different worlds. You can have events on different worlds that overlap, and you can see where they overlap. I know for mystery stories, this is very good for who done it and who was where.
I know a friend who might be interested in something like this. She is working on a historic mystery novel, and that's been one of the things that's been a struggle for her specifically, is keeping track of where everyone is and making sure they're at the right place at the right time for different events, and like figuring out what they're doing in between. That sounds like this would make it a lot easier to manage that
I
information.
think this would be one of the best softwares to do that with, at least that I have used. Now, there's a new feature, at least since I have used this program, that you can actually drag and drop between Aeon 2 and Scrivener.
That's cool.
I have not used it. I don't know how well it works, but it's there. Okay, moving on to characters and setting, which is the big part for fantasy and sci-fi.
Yes.
You can do this. I actually keep track of mine right now in folders and text files and images. Like, I just have it organized on my computer. I have used various tools in the past. Now, my situation is a little different. I have played in this setting with these characters for like 15 or 20 years. It was a D&D campaign. So a lot of that's already in my head. You still can do it this way, but you might have a lot more information that you want to organize that way. Word documents. We have a mutual friend who is amazing at organizing everything in Word documents in Excel.
She is.
She is.
When I was looking at this plotter tool, I'm like, this literally looks exactly like her Excel file, except not in Excel.
Except not Excel. Maybe she inspired them.
Oh, this girl is experienced. She said she's listening, but I don't think she's typing in chat, but she has written, like 7 or 8 books already, and she's like 25.
I love her, by the way, if she's listening.
Yes.
But yeah, she is one of those people that is naturally a little more organized. I envy that so much, and I admire it too. There's a tool called Campfire Pro that was really popular. They just started like Campfire Blaze. I do not know details of that project, except that I think it's more subscription-based, online-based.
Yeah, so the Campfire Blaze, I actually know about because of a YouTuber that I watch. He got sponsored by them recently, so he had like a little presentation. But essentially, Campfire Blaze, you can pick and choose which features of Campfire you want and pay for just what you want and get just what you want. So you can pay the $10 for characters, the $15 for whatever, and like build your own. Or you could just get the basic. I have the basic. I got it after Nano a couple years ago. I personally haven't used it that much, but I think part of it is that I already did all the work of creating the characters and stuff. So doing that was just like having to write down and centralize all the information that I already had, which just was tedious. But I'll get you guys a link to Campfire as well.
And World Anvil, I believe are they sponsoring Nano this year? I believe they might be.
Oh, let me check Nano's website really fast. That would be cool. Let me see. Where do you see their sponsors?
So World Anvil has actually done a lot of updating since I personally have used it. It's all very exciting stuff. I'm going to go ahead if that's okay, Michelle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Campfire Pro is available at the link here. We'll have that all in the description later. You can get it for either Windows or Mac again. It is more expensive. I also got this on a sale or through Winning Nano.
Same.
It's $50 basic fee, or you can get the world building pack for $25 more. They do have a 10-day free trial. What I like for Campfire Pro, the one feature I really, really like, is the way it tracks character arcs.
Yes.
So you can plot in Campfire Pro. I just don't like it because I don't like connecting the lines myself.
The manual work of having to connect them.
It's such a tiny thing. but I don't like it.
I don't blame you. That what you're explaining right there is the exact reason why I didn't get into Campfire in general, just because I'd have to do all of the work myself.
Yes, that
That's
is
so
the big
crazy.
negative, even in the character screens and stuff. Like, some of it is set up for you, some of it is not. They do have templates
Mhm.
available that you can add into Campfire with things that people have already made.
Right.
Just about everything. Like, if you want character specific stuff, it's there. If you want world specific stuff, it's there.
Mhm.
But
And I think,
tracking, sorry,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh no, I was just gonna say that Campfire Blaze, I think, makes it just that much easier because they take a lot of those features and make it easier to use with when you're choosing the individual ones that you want. There are more templates and it's easier to move things around than the original Campfire, from what I've seen.
Yes. So if that is important to you, I would definitely check out Campfire Blaze instead of Pro. From what I understand, that is the direction that the company is moving with Blaze. They're not planning on updating Campfire Pro. They are going to maintain it, but not update it.
Okay.
But character arcs in this program are pretty awesome. You can track like your character traits that you want to go up as the story goes on. You can track that by scene per
Oh,
character.
that is cool. I didn't know it was that in depth.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then they also have relationship trees. So if you have like an organization, like maybe your villain has an organization and you want to keep track of who's where, they actually have trees that you can do that. And you
That is
can,
a feature I did actually use when I was
yes.
doing Campfire.
And then you can plot in it, like we said. It's not maybe the easiest thing to plot in Campfire Pro. It might be much easier in Blaze. Now, I don't know for sure. I could not find information. As far as I know, this cannot export to Scrivener. Please correct me if I am wrong.
I have never tried, so I'm not 100% sure.
If anyone knows, please drop it in the chat or in the comments. But I could not find that it did.
I tried opening my Campfire and I thought I had done this whole like relationship tree, but now I can't figure out how to open it.
I've got a very small one I can show in a minute.
Okay.
I got the link for this wrong. I will correct that when it's in the description.
Oh, it says no relationship webs found. Maybe I just didn't save it. Oops.
Oh no.
Oopsie daisy.
So World Anvil is the next one. It's web-based. So I'll go into what makes it different in a minute. But it has a free version and a paid version. The free version is ad supported. It is, you don't have the collaboration, and it is public, which I did not like for my novel because I kind of hoping to publish it through a publisher. But it's free. And if you don't have that stipulation, it is a great tool. The paid version is $40 to $105 a year.
Oh, wow.
I do think they also have a Black Friday sale. Typically.
But it sounds like, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It sounds like that one's a subscription rather than a one-time fee.
This one is a subscription.
Okay.
However, it's also a thing we subscribe to, and I'll explain how we were subscribed to it, and I'm not using it in a second.
Okay.
So this is like a Wikipedia style, like a wiki style website that you're setting up for your novel or your world or your characters. You can go granular for the items. You can make articles about anything you want. You can link them together, put tags on them, all that stuff. They do have diplomacy webs and family trees, which I'm not sure they had when I was looking at it for my novel. You can co-author in the paid version. Either one of you can add articles or edit them. We use it for tracking D&D campaigns.
Yeah, so I see on their website that that's like their first item is I'm a game master.
It is amazing for game masters, for real. especially if you're doing it virtually. So you can have the DM. The DM has their own dashboard in the paid version. Like they have a dashboard and you can set things private from certain people and not private for other people. You can, it has a dice roller integrated now. I'll show you a little bit more about it in a minute. They do have a manuscript too for writers now.
Mm-hmm.
I have not used it. It's one of the updates that they've done. Obviously, my husband is using it to host D&D campaigns.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of the first things you ever showed me when we first started doing Nano together. I feel like you talked about this tool a lot last year.
I might have. I talk a lot about a lot of different things. Especially when it comes to organizing. I love the idea of being organized.
I like how you said that. I like the idea of it.
So this is a tool that is, if you like the wiki style of doing it, if you think that your brain is going to work with doing it that way, I highly recommend you look into World Anvil. I do recommend maybe waiting till Black Friday and seeing if they cut the price a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of pricey for most authors. Your manuscript, your book, what you've done. So you can do it in text file, Google Docs, a phone app. You can do it in Word, which is kind of what most publishers want you to use. They'll give you the specs that they want, you know, for their publishing company. World Anvil has that manuscript thing now. I believe Campfire Blaze might have something like that now too. I'm not sure.
Mm.
Scrivener, which is a very popular software. I think I might have a slide on it. And Noveler and other programs. So there's a lot of new programs for like overall novel planning that I have not used.
Yeah, someone in the chat was actually saying they use this one called Notion.
Oh, interesting.
Which I have not heard of until now, but I'll add that link as well.
Yeah, I hadn't used that one either.
I'll do the Scrivener link as well.
So Scrivener is $49 for Windows or Mac. There's a 30-day free trial. They have sponsored Nano several years. And a lot of your standalone tools will integrate into Scrivener because it's very popular.
I love Scrivener. Personally, I've been using it since like 2017, and I'm so glad that I have found it.
I really like it too for my manuscript and my notes. I actually prefer plotting in a different tool and keeping my character information in a different tool too. Like you can do it in Scrivener. I just don't want to put the effort into making a file. I just want to throw things like, oh, here's a picture that looks like this character. Throw it in a folder.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really use the character features. Sometimes I do just to have the names listed because in my book I use a lot of aliases. So it's sometimes hard to remember which name needs to be used by which character. So I have that listed because the characters can be listed like at the bottom underneath all your manuscript. But I don't really use it for plotting or for characters either. I really just use it for the actual writing. But I like how it's organized and you can move the chapters around and you can, you have a lot of control.
The different screens that you can use to keep track of things. It does have a tagging feature as well for the characters or the setting.
I'm also going to throw out, it is better, in my opinion, on the Mac. I think the Mac has the more advanced version. It has a dark mode when you're writing, which I prefer. And it just has some other additional features, which I don't know when they're going to bring it to the PC because I thought that they were going to move the beta to PC, but they still have not.
They still have not. I am actually so much better on the Mac. Yeah. So the big thing for Windows is it says Windows is like version 1, I think, or even farther behind. It's only one version behind. But the upgrade is so worth it that I would do the Mac if you have that option. If you don't, I would use the beta until it's done and back it up somewhere.
Yep. And they also have an app on your phone for Scrivener as well. It's a little wonky though, like their online transferring between devices could be better. That's a weakness, I think, for this app, but it does have the cell phone app as well.
And I can show you Scrivener here in a bit too. I have most of these pulled up. So here's the writing stuff. Okay, I did not make a full slide for this. This is just all the writing tips. In the past, I put it in Scrivener. Like the 10 mistakes fantasy authors always make. I save it. Like I make notes from YouTube videos that I really think I want later.
Mm-hmm.
But I also save things on my computer in a folder. I divide mine up into writing, editing, publishing, and just save it that way. And that is it. We are done with the presentation.
Woo.
I do have all of these tools. I want to start with Plotter.
So someone in the chat was saying that it sounds like you need multiple applications for writing. I think that I would say it depends on you as a person, what is going to work the best for you. So some people might want to have like 20 programs and use all of them, each one for a different reason. And some people may just have one and just use one. So it really just depends on your personal needs and what you're looking for when you are writing.
Yes, and even though I have all of these apps, I am more of a that looks neat, I want to try it person. I do not use all of these. I use Plotter and Scrivener as my primary apps.
And I use pretty much exclusively Scrivener right now. And notebooks. I use a lot of notebooks actually.
Notebooks are fun. I have a Nano bullet journal. I used to do it really fancy. Now I just keep notes in it. Like it's my random, this occurred to me.
Yeah, that's what my book of notes is, just like random thoughts that I have or like things I want to remember. Who knows? Sometimes I read through it and I'm like, oh, I wrote that. I don't remember that. So it's not a perfect. I don't think writing is a perfect science, no matter what you try to do. To boil it down, the best you can do is try to figure out what works for you, what tools work for you, and what advice works for you.
Exactly. It's so personal, really. Everyone thinks differently, especially if you're into Myers-Briggs. I'm sure we could talk about the different ways that different types tend to approach organizing.
Right.
Do what works for you. Do try the free trials before you buy.
Yes.
Because there are little things that bug me enough not to use a program. And you don't know those until you try it.
Exactly.
So this is Plotter. It starts with the project page. I did Star Wars for my example. Because
oh my gosh. I love
messy.
the animation of the books, though.
Yes, right? You can see the spines. You can actually add your cover if you want.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
So you can do it per book. I have only outlined the first book.
Oh, I mean, the fact that you did this at all is pretty impressive.
So this template is the 3-story method.
Okay.
I'll show you the templates here in a second. So the cards that are long like this, these do not, if you're exporting to Scrivener, these do not work. It cuts them off. You want short titles, and then you have an edit screen, like a description screen. This is where you want to put the longer stuff.
So like the cards in that last page, they're like the titles, and then you can add notes.
Yes. So in Scrivener, it actually, if you use the corkboard, these will be the titles of your scenes on the corkboard.
Okay.
All of the stuff in these pop-ups actually goes into notes. So let's see if I have one open here. So you can see here the notes here. I imported this earlier without all of the extras.
Okay.
But it just has things in notes. This is in your inspector file. I'd like it for plotting because I can just write down like the things I want to happen in the scene, and then I can actually come over here and write the whole scene without having to write around something it's referenced for me. But that's the way it imports. So if you're getting it to import into Scrivener, this is what it's going to do. It's going to have your like titles on the note card itself. If you use, see if I remember how to use the corkboard. It's been a while. Oh, hey, my old computer has fancy corkboard. So,
so it looks like you have the beta version.
This is actually, yes, the beta version.
How do you get the beta version? I'm looking on their website and I cannot figure it out, and I want it.
I will get you the link below.
Okay.
After we're done, I will just drop you. Is anybody keeping track of this? Because I am not.
Oh, I have been keeping a list of links actually over here on my notes.
Excellent.
And Michael was saying that he refuses to use anything that doesn't have dark mode, and I 100% agree. When I got Scrivener for PC, I was actually really annoyed because on Mac you can have the dark mode, and I really appreciate that on my eyes.
I'll switch for you guys. Plotter has dark mode.
Ooh. I just think it's, I mean, I just like that. You know, I have a goal that I'm going to print a special edition of my novel that's on black paper with white ink. It is going to happen. I don't know how many I'm going to print because it'll probably be super expensive. Yes, but I'm going to have black paper, white ink.
Be a special Patreon version.
Exactly.
So this one, I've showed you the cards. It has an outline mode that throws it into an outline. So you can edit it in the outline instead of on the cards if you want. Again, remember to keep your title short. You can do notes to yourself. So if you have ideas, I haven't filled any out. You can track your characters. It does not import into Scrivener. But if you just want a place to track it, you can. Now, this export to Scrivener is not a sync. So when you export it, that is the version that Scrivener will use, and you will not be able to update back and forth. So make sure your plot is where you want it before you export it. You can organize by places or tags as well. And if you want to,
this looks very user-friendly as well.
It really is. And I'm going to start a new one from a template for you guys.
Okay.
These are the ones I made for myself. It does have that snowflake method template. There's a lot of explanation. I have not used this. This looks a little maybe too much to put in. I'm going to go ahead with the 7 plot, or there's a mystery formula.
Ooh.
The 8 sequence, the action adventure plot. I have not looked into that.
The Dan Harmon story circle is probably the closest to what I use. Yeah, I use that pretty much. It's like the one that I use is called a plot embryo, which is a version derived from his 8-act structure, which is all based on the hero of many faces, the hero's journey. It is literally the hero's journey. It's just a different way of wording it and looking at it, which has been super helpful for me. This is probably the only plotting thing that I have actually had work for me is the story circle plot embryo.
I really like it in circle method. Honestly, I would probably draw it on paper before I did it in here.
Yes, I have a lot of plot embryos or plot circle or these character circles or whatever. I wonder if I have one on my in this book. I don't know if I do. Oh, I do. I didn't fill it out, but you can kind of see. Maybe.
So you can add scenes to these plots. These do export into Scrivener as subfolders. Let's see if I have that still up. So if you see here, Like they do show up as subfolders of your card.
That is
Of
one
your
of my
title.
favorite features. I
Your
actually have
title, sorry.
Scrivener as the subfolders.
Yes. So that is Plotter. It's very easy. You just click on it, type in what, I don't know, my character needs to get a life today. And then he's going to go somewhere else.
Yes.
But you can put sub-scenes or like, obviously these are big categories. If you want to write a whole novel, you're going to have more scenes than just the chapters.
Right. Yeah, I have actually about 5 or 6 chapters per each one of these headings in my own.
Yeah, so we should absolutely like flesh out these templates a little bit. Some of them are actually very in-depth in these mouse overs. This one is not. It's very simple. Some of them actually have quite a bit of information that you can dig into in the template.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice, actually.
And if you don't like it, you can just delete the timeline, add another one. For exporting into Scrivener, so the chapters are the folders in Scrivener, and the cards are subtext in Scrivener. So if you have multiple timelines, it can get kind of messy if they don't line up per chapter, if you don't want them organized that way. I always do it very simple because it's a starting point for me, really. This is where my big ideas can just drag and drop and change like a sub-scene or subplot. You can just move stuff around as you want.
I like that. I like how easy it is to drag and drop and move things around. That to me is such a vital thing, because one of the main reasons that paper doesn't work for me in this sense is that it doesn't save the order that I put things in. I might have to clean it up and fix it up. So having computer things that work as well as something that's physical, as easily to move it around, but then also saves, is like absolutely life-saving.
And it's very, it's pretty quick to respond, as opposed to some of the other writing programs. So there's really no real huge delay. And this computer is old. This is not a new machine at all. It's from like 2012 or 2013. Because I don't have this on my new computer yet. Okay, what was the next one that we wanted to look at? Was it the timeline? Aeon timeline?
Yeah. Let's do Aeon timeline. I don't think I've ever actually seen that one in use before, or even heard of it.
So this is Aeon timeline, and you can see what I mean about it being duration based.
Ooh.
So you can see in this scene, this character is gone doing this the whole time. This one down here is a character that's trapped on a different planet.
Oh, wow.
So they actually cannot do anything.
Oh, wow.
So if you mouse over, like, this is one country, this is a different country, this is a different planet, and this is no place, because apparently I added no place. It's the default, I think.
Oh, okay.
But if you click on an event, it has like when it starts, how long it lasts, and when it ends, which is really good for if you have very specific things that happen in your story. Especially like the murder mysteries and that kind of thing, where you need to know how long they were gone doing this thing. It has tags. It has participants who observed it, which is really cool for the mysteries again.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You can have different arcs. Sorry, go ahead.
It just looks like if you have a complicated plot, this would be one of the most helpful tools that we've looked at so far, for visualizing what's going on and keeping track of it that way. I know some people are so visual that if they don't have the visual, it can be almost impossible to keep it all straight.
Right. And I would say especially for things that have duration to them. I do believe there is a view by relationships or characters.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. So you can see who was in the scene and who saw the scene just on this. So if you want to see all of them this character was in, you can see that and click on them.
Oh, that is cool. And I like, that is my favorite feature so far, I think even more than the other timeline.
It makes a really pretty chart, doesn't it?
Yeah. Someone's asking if we have affiliate links. Definitely not at this time, but if one of these guys wants to sponsor, I'm totally for it.
Right, exactly. Help us out here. We all love it.
That is the coolest feature, though. Absolutely.
I really like it. It has some different options on like how you view it. I have it set up so that my main divisions are setting right now.
Oh.
But you can collapse them so you don't see. Maybe you just want to know what's happening at this castle here.
Okay.
So it does have some kind of sync mode. I am not entirely sure how any of that works.
Okay.
I just use it to visualize.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one you can drag and drop, probably the events from the timeline. I am not entirely sure. You can probably drag and drop this to Scrivener. I might try it right now. Let's see what happens. Oh, that didn't work. Not that kind of drag and drop, I guess. We're going to put it in Star Wars. It's a new movie now. Let's see if there's a different mode for this. I am not. It wants to move these around. So if you need to move an event around, you can actually like just move it. You want to move it ahead, you can just move it. If you want to move it behind, you can move it there too. So if your timeline changes a little bit, you can adjust on the fly.
That's good. I recently had to do that because I realized that I made the years, I think I made the story 75 years in the future too far. So I had to change all of the timeline to match that and do the math. It was great.
I am not a math person at all. So that would have really been hard for me.
It was annoying.
I do not see what I am looking for here. I was hoping to be able to just grab the event and drop it, and I do not see that ability. But my version may be an old version as well.
Okay.
All right. I think that's pretty much it for how I use Aeon Timeline. There are probably a million different ways to dig into it that I am not familiar with.
Right.
This is Campfire 6.5.7, which is probably ancient.
I don't know. What version do I have? 6.8.4? Wait, what did you say? You had yours at
6.5.7.
Okay.
And this is all custom. Like I set this myself. It does not always look like this.
Okay, I was like, mine does not look that nice.
Character based. These are all like things that you add yourself pretty much. So you can add as many of these or as few of these as you want. So maybe you want some statistics. See if I can drag and drop. Apparently my drag and drop ability is not so good today. But it's all like this. You kind of set it yourself. And that can be really good if you have things that are different from the norm. So let's say you have a money system that's different from everything else and you're keeping track of how much something costs. It would be good to be able to just change what unit that was.
Oh, I like that picture.
Thank you. It's not mine. I stole it off the internet and
That's where we
recolored
get
it.
everything. I love the internet. Oh, you recolored it so it matched her features?
Yes. It's
Nice.
actually, I believe, Samus fan art.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
So the relationships is what we were talking about before that we really liked. So this you can add as many or at least several colors that you want to track, like what the relationships are between people. This is just a family tree, and these two end up, well, we'll see what happens in this book, but in that book, they ended up married. Or in a relationship, I guess.
Yeah, I think I know why I deleted it is because it got really complicated, me trying to like keep track of the relationships and all of that stuff. Um, but I did actually do one of these. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't even like save it just in case I wanted to go back to it.
I would have loved to have seen what you had, honestly.
It's complicated.
It is. I don't think I have anybody else that's like here, but you
Yeah, I
can
don't
add
even
your
have all my.
characters to it, and then I am not sure how to change the lines, honestly, but you can change the colors if you want. Please link up. I am not patient enough to not link up. There we go. So if they had a child, they would be family.
Mm.
I don't see that it connects straight to the line, though.
No, I think you can only connect it where the little gray dots are.
Now, remember, my version is pretty old, so they may have fixed some of these little bugs that are coming up as I'm doing it, or made it a little easier to use. I guess they're not really bugs.
Mm.
I wanted to show you that character arc tracker. So if you click on your event when you're making a timeline, oh, it's not here either. Where did I throw it? I am losing my mind. Don't worry though, it's been gone a while.
So is mine. I don't know if I ever had it, to be honest.
It's in the character arc screen. That makes a whole lot more sense, doesn't it?
That does. It does.
So your scenes will show up at the top, and you can describe like how your character changes in this journey. So this is the beginning. He's kind of stuck up, lazy, unmotivated. It sounds like I'm chewing someone out, really. He has a lot of character arc growth in this book. Physical changes. So if they get an item, or if they fight the villain and they get a scar or something like that that you want to keep track of, you can track it in the screen too.
Ooh. Michael is recommending a book called The Secret Language of Birthdays.
So you can actually track it over time in a chart. It's fun. But this is something that you obviously have a character arc in your story, but this is more like if you want to track it and see what's happening at different points in time. This is obviously not something that most people are going to find essential. But if you're using it for character like organization or the world, which I'll show you in a bit, I do have the world building pack for this.
Nice.
We do have some world stuff in the basic. I have not filled hardly anything, honestly.
The campfire font is killing you in a good way or a bad way.
I have no idea what font this is. I am guessing. I might have set it custom. If I did, I apologize. I was obviously very into theming it. That
Yeah,
hurt
see,
me.
all of this is way more work than I'm willing to put in, but
Yeah, this is very granular for me. So if you want to track like your magic system, your items, philosophy, religion, like you can put all of this into Campfire. I'm actually going to get out of it. I have nothing else in here. Honestly, I cannot help.
uh, yeah, I wish that I had known one of these things existed when I was starting to build my world, in 2016. But now that I've
Yeah,
done all the work and written it all down on paper and I've figured it out, like I can basically remember the most important things.
right.
So doing that just feels tedious. But if you're starting, I feel like this would be incredibly helpful and help give you some direction that maybe I lacked when I was first starting and just kind of just groping in the dark, so to speak, trying to figure out the boundaries of my world. And this
And
would have been
remember
really nice.
too, like you don't have to build and track everything. You can just do what's related to your plot. So you don't like organizations, you don't have to figure out all the organizations in the world unless it has
Mm,
something to do with your plot. So maybe you have a guild that does come into your plot and you would definitely want to know about that organization. But if it doesn't relate, then there's no real reason to do that.
right.
World Anvil, let's see. I've got that in Firefox, I think.
Ooh,
Oh
pay
no, it
attention.
logged my husband out.
Now we all can see your username and
That's okay. I have no idea how to log in. I don't know what his
oh,
stuff
okay.
is. So I just have the stuff that's on the screen. I'll show you what they have on the website that you can go to yourself and do at your own leisure. But they do have that free account. It is ad supported and public. I believe, like, I'm really curious about the diplomacy webs. Like, I feel like if you had a complex plot, and I do think I have one complex enough, like, to figure out what the relationships are between different organizations would be really interesting.
Yeah, that actually would probably be helpful for me because there are some political things going on, but I've just decided I'm gonna brush over those political happenings.
If it's not very plot relevant, then it's not needed.
Exactly. That's my thought. Unless I want to make this story like a 1,000 page book where I just go into the whole craziness that is everything. I don't know if I have that energy in me to do such a thing.
Right. And honestly, your reader probably wouldn't want to sit through a lot of extra detail either.
I don't know what people like doing. I
I wish I
actually
would have
haven't read
read this.
Dune.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, all I said is I haven't read Dune, so I can't really have a true opinion on that.
I'm trying to think ahead and organize my thoughts. I'm not very organized today, guys.
You're definitely
So
more organized than me 90% of the time, so
that might be because I'm so disorganized. I try to keep myself in check.
Mm.
Anyway, at the bottom of the page, you can go and if you're writer, I really, really actually love the Game Master tools. It is so useful. So you can do your wiki of your world. You can speak with your players behind the scenes or in front of other players. You can manage what happens in your campaigns themselves.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I wish that I did more D&D, but also at the same time I know that the time that it would take from me I don't have.
Can we convince you to live stream a D&D session
Oh
sometime?
my god. So, what's actually interesting is I have a friend at work who's created his own role-playing game with a really cool world that I want to explore. I told him like he needs to make it into like an actual book, but this world is like the world ends in the 60s and there are people with like superpowers that are put in a prison and they're like underground when the world is destroyed. So all that's left is like remnant 60s technology and these people with superpowers. It's super cool. I
Oh, that
want
sounds
to.
interesting. I heard part of that. I don't hear you anymore. Are we still together?
Oh no, I stopped talking. That was it.
Okay. I have such technology problems, guys. I gave this entire presentation to myself earlier.
She did. She did.
So,
It was like completely blacked out on my end, and I'm like, "Hello, hello, can you hear me?" I'm like
right. And
texting
meanwhile,
her, and
I'm
I'm
like,
like,
I don't know
where
if
are
you can
you?"
hear me.
Oh, technology.
So this is kind of the part that applies to the writing too. You can actually do like historical stuff and keep track of it. There are some timelines. It says that you can build maps. I do not know exactly about that. When I was using it before, I could not actually design any maps. Your mileage may vary. But anyway, it's basically a big wiki program, honestly, that you can cross-link.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty cool. To do once you, for me, I feel like this is something that I would do after my book comes out, to do like the wiki of all like the technology and history of the world that maybe I can't actually like explain everything in the book, but it would just be fun knowledge to
Yes.
have.
And again, it is actually really, really good for campaigns and managing them for your dungeon master. I don't know if they explain it more for the writing section. But it is really good for particularly world building and maybe character tracking. They do have a digital publishing platform. I do not know anything about it. This is new since I've used it.
Okay.
And I believe the map feature might be new since I've used it too. But you can also do timelines and stuff on this too. And what was the last one? Do we want to look at Scrivener?
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about Scrivener and shown it a little bit, but haven't really gone into much detail about it.
Okay, guys, this is more just something I tried to organize with. So this on the left, I believe, is called the binder.
Mm-hmm.
It has different sections and subsections in it. Let me collapse these all down. This format actually worked pretty well for me. It's based on a template from KM. Am I saying it right? Wayland. Anyway, it's based on a template from her that is available on her website. Michelle, if you make a note for me, I will link to that template too.
What is the template called, or do you know?
Just put KM template and I will look up the link.
Okay.
So I created a section for myself called Messy Ideas and Outlines.
Oh, nice.
It was really messy at the time, so I kept all my character notes. Oh, look, Maya Briggs.
He's an INTJ.
And I won't go into the plot notes in case there's spoilers. This is her setup here, which has is broken out by your hook. She has lots of tips in this template on how to write each section.
Oh, that's cool.
And then this is one I set up when I was going to keep track of all my character arcs and stuff in Scrivener.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have anything in here because I wanted to track it as I went instead of trying to do it ahead of time, because I have shifted my plot and my characters a lot since I've begun this.
Yes,
familiar. I didn't want to remember the wrong thing.
So Siren of the Void is actually asking which of these apps do you think would best suit someone who's a complete beginner? They're like just starting with writing in general.
Okay, honestly, I would probably go ahead and splash out the money on Scrivener because it has a place for you to actually do your manuscript. It is not going to help you like learn how to plot, but this template that we will link later has a lot of information that you can use to plot your novel.
One of the things that I really like about Scrivener, and one of the things that I've done, is that I like to write plot summaries. So I'll write like a paragraph summary about each chapter and write out like the whole plot of the story. What you can do with Scrivener is you can set up each of those chapter paragraphs as like notes for the chapter that show up on the sidebar while you're typing, so you can see your notes right next to what you're doing. So you can actually, where it says synopsis up there, it'll show all your notes. So I can just paste the paragraph in there and write it out.
This is in the inspector panel. It's on the right-hand side. With this little icon, you can pop it in and out as you need it. I do agree. Like, I really like having the notes, especially if I've imported from Plotter. I do like having the notes of what I wrote in my plot planning here. And then you can just write in the middle. I'm gesturing with my hands. I'm so technologically challenged.
I can gesture for you.
Excellent.
It's there, right around this region. It's like mirrored, so it's hard to
it's hard to keep track. Yeah. So this is my writing tools, like the sections I was talking about, all the stuff that you get. Like Wired for Story, we were talking about how all stories kind of have basic characteristics. These are notes from a book called Wired for Story, and I think you would find it incredibly interesting on that topic.
Yeah, I actually have it in my wish list of things I want to get. I'll add that. I'll add a link to that as well. Wired for Story.
We're going to spend at least like 15 minutes just getting links.
Yeah. Well, I've been actually keeping track of them as we go along.
Oh, nice.
For the most part, yeah. And trying to organize them somewhat. So I've been trying. This is completely off topic, but someone asked, and I want to talk about it really fast because I do.
Oh, that's okay. I am finished up, so I am ready to take any questions or try to explain what I can.
This one is a complete sideline, and it's about an anime, but basically he's asking about the philosophy of light Yagami. So basically in the show, he gets a book called a Death Note, and if you write the name of somebody in the book, they will die within, I think it's like a minute or something like that. But if in the time after you write their name, you write out how they die, then you can create specifics and whatnot. Anyway, he first starts out using it to kill people who are terrible criminals, basically. And as the story progresses, he starts changing his mentality, and he starts getting a little bit of like a god complex, where he suddenly decides like he is the ultimate of all morality. But then it also starts morphing to a point where he's really just trying to maintain this control and make sure that people don't find out it's him by getting so integrally stuck into the actual detective work. Like he integrates himself with the detectives, and personally I think that it becomes very gross how it gets at the end. I think ultimately he was bored with the way that his life was, and he created his own god complex. I think it was actually just completely based off narcissism and had nothing to do with his actual morality. That's my personal opinion, is that it was purely an expression of his narcissism, his whole philosophy.
It sounds along those lines to me as well. It also sounds like a negative arc story.
It is. It is. It's a what are those called? Not redemption, but the other one. Why can't I?
Anti-hero? No.
There's like an actual term for this. Um, corruption. Why was that so
Correction
hard? It
art.
is a corruption art. Yeah.
Yes. So I think
Yeah.
it's really hard to tease out the morality from, like, in a way, mental illness.
Hmm.
And I think you have to kind of look at the motivation of the character in that moment. Like self protection, you might have a little more leeway for things because that's a basic primitive instinct, which is why, at least in the US, our legal system kind of does take a little bit more leeway in those cases. But you do have, I feel like for me, morality has to do with the intent behind it.
Yeah. Which actually leads into another question that I think is really interesting. It'll take us again off topic of the tools itself, but I think it kind of lends into what you were just saying. And the question is like, how much do you think your worldview is affecting your world building in your story?
I would say to a point, the worldview itself has to do with really what things you find admirable in the characters that you are setting up for their character growth. So maybe there's something that you really admire and you want your character to grow in, but maybe another person wouldn't find the way they grow as morally pure as you do. So for me, it's more character based. World building, not so much. My world's pretty simple in that regard. It's a pretty standard fantasy setting. So the big bad guy is really kind of bad.
I have to admit that my world building is heavily influenced by my world views. Um, and some of the hopes that I have for society as a whole. So, like in my book, it's a globalist economy and it's a resource based economy. But it also includes my fears of how we could um, pervert such ideas and take advantage of them or find the loopholes within creating this kind of world economy. So, my story is taking my worldviews and then what I've done is each of my characters has a different approach to my worldview, kind of like I do mentally, because I have multiple perspectives on these different worldviews. So my characters represent those different viewpoints. So for me, it's kind of both the characters and actually pretty confidently the world as well. Trying to see if there's any other questions. I think there's just like a little discussion going on about Death Note and Light Yagami's philosophy and mentality. It sparked a little bit of a conversation there. But with all that being said, it seems like we've kind of slowed our conversations. Do you
Yes.
guys want to do a little writing together? We can do some sprints as a group and just enjoy some writing together. Or we could end the stream, and those of us who are interested can go write just on the Discord server.
I'll be honest, Discord is where I'm going to go and stop casting my screen. Here's all of my trash writing that I'm trying to get out really fast.
I really have enjoyed this conversation and everything that you talked about. I think that it brought a lot of the resources that are there and gave a really good overview of those. And we were able to even explore them a little bit. I like that you have them all downloaded and that you're willing to give them all a try. It,
It's
in a
really
way, allows me to vicariously try them without having to actually try them.
it's really kind of the point of sharing them all, is that I don't want anyone to have to use their resources that they don't need to on things that aren't going to be valuable for them. And it's kind of fun. It really is fun to explore new things. I mean, I really am inspired by all of the programmers and people who are coming up with these tools for authors. They really are making our lives a whole lot easier.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been really fun talking to you. I am going to go jet. Maybe
Woo!
have some lunch.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all this information. I think that it's really valuable information for anyone who's starting to get into writing and wants to know what tools to use. I'll probably update the thumbnail of this video to be more accurate to what the actual topic is. I just threw something together super quickly before we went live, like literally 10 minutes before we went live. But thanks, Christina, for sharing your information. And thank you, everyone, for hanging out and watching. Some of you have been watching with this whole ordeal since the beginning. So thank you guys so
Yes,
much.
thank you for your patience.
Yes. If you're interested in joining us in writing, we will be doing so on the Discord. I will share the writing Discord. This one's different than my MBTI one, just because the focus is more exclusively on writing. So let me go ahead and get that link for you guys. And I will leave this video live. So if anyone wants to have this information, go back over it, pause, click the links. That'll all be there. And we'll put the links in the description as well. Thank you all so much. And I hope that you have a beautiful, amazing, fantastic day. Bye.
Thank you.